Hi guys, this is Damaris and I'm born again. Christ is rock of my salvation. I thank God so much for the breath of life today. I thank God for the gift of salvation, and I thank God that He has given me life on this day. And so I have been trying to learn about as an organ that is very important when it comes to life and how we live, and that's the heart. So, and I came across a few verses actually in the Bible that talk about the heart, because I think that has been my subject, and that is why I've been coming across a lot of them. And I might not be able to share about all, but I will share what really came so heavily to my heart. And it's about the heart in regards to the book of Proverbs chapter 4. I read the whole of Proverbs. It's really a lot of wisdom being poured in, and this sounds like not actually a dialogue, because the son is not replying, but it sounds like an older man giving advice to a younger man. So and it has a lot of wisdom, and I tend to think, the way they say wisdom also comes by age, I think there's a truth in it, because someone that has lived longer might have more experiences about things, and so they might have a lot more to share than someone that has lived less than them. But that is not always the case, but it's supposed to be the case. Now, in the book of Proverbs chapter 4, I will only read from verse 20 to 27. Please make a point of reading the whole chapter when you get a chance, because it has a lot of wisdom in it. From verse 20, it says, "My son, pay attention to what I say. Listen closely to my words. Do not let them out of your sight. Keep them within your heart, for they are life to those who find them, and health to a man's whole body." Now, words or instructions are health to a man's whole body. "Above all else, guard your heart, for it is the wellspring of life." And that is what really triggered or screamed out of the whole verse, because it says, "Above all, guard your heart, for it is the wellspring of life." And I remembered something that I liked saying. I think that was back in college days, and I liked saying, "Linda moyo wako kuliko vyote unavyolinda." So above everything else that you can ever guard, above everything else that you want to be very careful about, above everything else that is very important to you, guard your heart, because out of your heart comes all issues of life. That is what another version says. Now, this book, the chapter that I've been reading, the Proverbs chapter 4, it shows how important listening is, like the whole chapter. But when it gets to verse 20, it says, "Guard your heart above all the other instructions that I've given you." Even after taking all the wisdom, all the wise words that have been given, guard your heart. So that means care much, or be very careful with what gets into your heart. Even after listening to all of what I have told you, that if you guard your heart, then everything else, all the other instructions will be able to make sense, or they will be able to reflect wisdom in your life, in how you live, in what you say, in what you do. If your heart is guarded, if you sieve or filter what comes through into your heart. Now, when I look into a heart physically, a heart is a muscle, right? A heart is a muscle, and it's very important to us, or because if your heart stops, then there is danger, or if your heart has any issues, then you tend to really be so worried about a heart having issues than a toe or than another part of the body, because a heart and a brain are the most important organs in our bodies, because they dictate how we live and how all the other organs are going to function. Now, heart physically is a powerful and a very important muscle, and that is in the chest, and it's not just put in the chest, it's also protected by the rib cage. Now, the rib cage acts as a shield for the heart, but it doesn't do the heart's job. No other part does the heart job, but the rib cage protects the heart so that it's not easily reached. So, and even when we look into like those people who go in war, or even local police officers, they have a vest. They call it, I think they call it a vest or a chest vest. And that vest, when they put it on, they can put something on top of it, or they can have just the vest on top. But that vest is important to them, because even if they are shot, the bullet will not penetrate through into their hearts, and they don't have a vest, or they don't have something of the same material that is made into pants, because even if their legs are very important, they might survive a bullet that went through the leg or thigh or arms, but they may not survive a bullet that went through their heart. So because the heart is very important to everybody and for us to be able to live. So the way this book of Proverbs, the whole chapter 4, shows us how much listening is important for gaining wisdom and for gaining knowledge. And because what we value and what we put in a box labeled wisdom and in a box labeled knowledge is what we even unconsciously allow into our hearts. The values that we hold on to, even cultural values, or the values that we've been taught, the values that we have taught ourselves or learned, the things that we are learning right now, what we allow into our heart is what our mind tells us that is important. And so we put those things in our hearts because they matter to us. Now, if we are listening to things that make sense, if we are listening to things that will edify us, if we are listening to things that will protect us, it should be things that we have really filtered before they get into our hearts. Now, instructions are realized only by those who listen, and those who just hear only know someone was speaking or that something is written, but only attention payers are able to fetch instructions out of it. And that is why you hear this man in Proverbs, he keeps reminding his son, listen, my son, to a father's instruction. Pay attention and gain understanding. And there is a verse that really came through for me. It says, listen, my son, accept what I say, and the years of your life will be many. And this shows that we can listen, we can someone can speak to us, or we can read something even in the Bible. But if we do not value that as instruction, we will not be able to accept it. I don't know whether you've been in a situation, maybe in teen years, or those who are who are teens, and we can hear something, or I could hear something, and I'm like, oh, that only matters to those or to that category, or it mattered back in the days. This person is saying that because they're older, and that is not what matters today. Every time I would say that or tell my mind that, even if I'm not speaking it out, I have put a wall between I have put a wall for what I can receive. Now, I'm not able to absorb that wisdom. I'm not able to get that advice, because I have labeled it as not so important. Now, what Proverbs says is, now what I learned out of it is that listening and hearing are not the same thing. We should be able to listen to wisdom, but then even after listening to it, we may not be able to capture or to get the wisdom out of the words that have been put together, because we are not valuing that as wisdom. Now, we choose to accept wisdom and knowledge because we have labeled it as instructions that are important to us. And those who is also Proverbs says a very important thing, that those who esteem wisdom are exalted by it. That means those who take that wisdom and put it in their hearts, they are lifted up by it, because it's not how they look physically, it's what they have in their hearts. And those who embrace wisdom are actually honored by the wisdom that they embrace. Now, wisdom has a way to honor only for those who value it as wisdom. Now, two people could be listening to wisdom. Two people could be reading to something that should be wisdom and that should guide them into how they live life. But one person might not take that as wisdom and go their own ways or choose another route, and another person may take it as wisdom and use it and be able to manage their life easily and in a better way. Why? Because even if they were given the wisdom, or they took the same chances and they had the same book, one person labeled it as wisdom and so accepted it and placed it in their hearts for it to guide them, and another person took it as just something else that anyone could read, like the way you would read a newspaper. Nothing that we read in a newspaper that we take so much into heart. And that is why we might hear a story of a case that happened even very few years ago, and we remember bits and pieces of that story, and it was in the news everywhere. But unless it was so close to us, or it happened to a relative or someone that we know personally, we do not take it so much to heart. And so if somebody else was to reflect on the same file and now try to tell us they have investigated and this is what happened, we will need a reminder of when that was anchored and how the case went. We might be able to remember bits and pieces of so and so did so and so to that person, but then we might not remember everything about it or even the names in the story. Why? Because things that we value are the only things that we put in heart. Whereas we might remember something that was said very many years ago, and it might be something that we have really that we have always remembered through the years, and maybe in one way or another, or even unconsciously, it guides how we live, because we placed that instruction or that specific information close to our hearts. Now, when we look into the reason he says guard instructions, and the reason he says guard it, or it is instructions, is because it is what we allow in our hearts that contribute to the wells that springs out of our hearts. Now, everything that we put in our hearts combines together or mixes together and becomes a well. A well is something that somebody else can fetch from, and a well is something that you can share with others. A well is something that cannot be hidden. A well, everybody knows that there is a well where there is a well. It's usually not a secret. Now, our hearts are secrets. What we allow into our hearts are secrets, but the wells that flow out of our hearts are not secrets. When something flows out the wells of our hearts. So, in this life, even with all else that we can read, even with everything that can be said, above all else that we should guard is we should guard our hearts. Everything that we do flows from our hearts. Your words, your actions are a reflection of your heart, and you cannot be passive about your heart. you have to actively protect the well-being of your heart. You have to take God, just like the same way God took time and made sure that the heart is placed in a way that it's protected, that if you fall, even if you fall with your chest down on the ground, chances of you crushing your heart are very little. You might break a rib, you might break everything else before you are able to break or to crash into your heart. Now, the way we live life, we should be watching our thoughts and our words, who we listen to, and the things that we listen to become also our words and our thoughts. And that's why when we hang out with people who curse so much, we will find ourselves cursing. And even if we do not like it, as long as we hang out with people who are cursing, with people who are talking very negatively, we will find ourselves also talking negatively. When we allow negative thoughts about others to be how we live, we will find ourselves also wanting to talk negative about others, and we'll never see anything good about another person because our hearts have been fed with negativity. Now, one of the ways that we can guard our hearts is by watching our thoughts and our words, and by cutting negative talks and what we say, and even what we think about our own selves. What I think about me will guide me in the way I live, and it will guide me in the way of what I think about others. When I think good about myself, I will also want to think good about others. When I want to see others in a positive way, I will speak those things that are positive about others. Now, the second thing that we can do to guard our hearts is we should have principles and know when to say no, and when to walk away, and when to limit negative exposure. So we should always limit negative exposure, but we should always know when to say no and when to walk away. There are times when you say no and you are able to still be in the group or in the crowd or in the friendship, because they know that your limits are these, and that they don't speak negative where you are, and you can actually change them into speaking positive. But then there are times when you realize that for you to guard your heart, you cannot guard your heart and guard the friendship at the same time. And so you take what's important, and what should be important is you guarding your heart and leaving them to be changed by Jesus, because you cannot change others. Many people have maintained negative friendships in the hope of changing them, and they ended up being the ones who are changed to the negative. Now, if that should be the case, then we should choose to guard our hearts and live and walk away from negative people and those who bring negative ideas. Because sometimes even people who at the end of their life commit suicide and stuff is because of the things that are in their hearts, that some people are not even able to bring them out so that they can relearn new ideas, or so that they can take out the negativity and bring in the positivity, because the negative is too much, and it even alters the way they think about their own selves and what they hear and what they see around them and how they value life. But it all starts from our hearts. It all starts from what we allow into our hearts, the things that we listen to, the people that we hang around, the things that we allow to accept. Because if Proverbs says accept my instruction, that means that we can decline instruction, right? So if we can accept wisdom and good instructions, we can be able to decline what is not wise and bad instructions. So let us not allow things that are negative into our hearts. Now, the other thing is we should have principles and know when. Oh, we already said that. Sorry. The third thing is we should love ourselves and care for ourselves. That comes by reading. What are you reading? Do you take time to read the Bible? Do you take time to do self-care for your spirit by reading the Bible, praying, listening to good praise or worship songs? Do you take time to care about your physical, like maybe a walk or exercising or even doing a little bit of stretching? Do you do things that bring joy to you, like hobbies that you like? Maybe you like art and craft, maybe drawing, maybe just do you take good care of yourself by sleeping enough, by doing things that should improve your health, maybe checking into your vitamins, little things like those are things that also contribute to how we see ourselves and what we allow into our hearts about our own self. Now, there is a verse that I came across in the book of Proverbs chapter 17 verse 22. It says, "A cheerful heart is good medicine." Now, but it also says something, and I want to actually go to it because there is a continuation after that. Proverbs 17 verse 22. Proverbs 17 verse 22. Yes. So the Bible says here, 22, "A cheerful heart is good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up bones." This is talking about a spiritual heart, right? But what a coincidence. This is not a coincidence that if you crush my heart today physically, my bones are gonna dry, because the heart is the organ that pumps blood throughout my body, and I cannot live with a crushed heart. The same thing happens spiritually. The Bible says that a cheerful heart is good medicine. So a healthy heart is good medicine. A heart by itself, by the way it does its work, is medicine for my body, because my blood and oxygen are medicine to my whole body. If I don't have blood, and if that blood is not oxygenated, I cannot survive, right? So the heart is what produces the medicine that my whole body needs. The same thing spiritually. Your heart is good medicine when it's cheerful. Now, a heart that is not cheerful is a heart that is full of grudges, is a heart that is full of unforgiveness, is a heart that is full of negativity, is a heart that cannot worship God for who He is a heart that does not see anything good about itself. It only sees the negative. It only wants to compete. It's not grateful. A heart that is not cheerful is never grateful, because it doesn't see what it has and what has been bestowed upon it. So it can never give thanks genuinely. It only seeks to compete with whatever other people around it have. So it doesn't see, unless it's the one on top of the crowd, it doesn't see anything good, right? So that heart always remains troubled. That is a heart that will have jealousy in it, because jealousy occupies where there is ungratefulness and where there is envy. Now, that heart cannot be cheerful. That heart will always be dull. That heart will have artificial smile, but in the inside, the heart is achy. Now, that's the opposite of a cheerful heart. A cheerful heart sees, even if I don't have anything right now, I'm so grateful about life. I'm so grateful I'm not where I used to be. I am so grateful that I have life. I'm so grateful that I can afford a smile. I may not afford many things, I may not be able to do many things. I may not be where I thought I would be, but I am not where I used to be. A cheerful heart sees positive. A cheerful heart sees the good of others. A cheerful heart is happy with other people's success because it knows, oh, if maybe they started praying for what they have before I started praying for it. So if they have got it, I'm the next one in the line. So I am so glad that they are out of their line. I'm so grateful that they got their breakthrough. A cheerful heart will always see the good side of others and of itself. Now, but when a heart is not cheerful, when a heart is achy or is ill, it allows offense easily. It allows every negativity easily. So, and when all of that negativity sits in, it dries out your spiritual bones. Your spiritual bones are what helps you to run the race. Your spiritual bones are what helps you to stand firm and wait and see God's. The things that the Bible says are not a coincidence. We are told to stand firm and see the Lord's salvation. We are told to run the race with perseverance, right? We are told to be vigilant. We are told to, above everything else that we guard our hearts. That is work. We cannot work without having to use our bones. Even spiritually, we have spiritual bones. Your spiritual man cannot stand, and you cannot intercede. You cannot fight the battle. You cannot have victory. You cannot stand still to see God's salvation if we do not have bones, if our bones have dried up. So do not allow your heart to be heavy. Do not allow your heart to be ill, because you will dry out your spiritual bones. And that really came out so heavily, like when I read that. And another one that says about the heart is in Proverbs chapter 27 and verse 19. And it says, as waters reflects the face, so one's life reflects the heart. Now, you cannot hide what's in your heart too long. Your words and your actions and the way you live your life will scream out what is in your heart. So, and even how you deal with issues. What do you do when you hear things that you would not like to hear about, that have been said about you? Do you run with your physical body to go fight back? Or do you run with your spiritual man to just shut the accuser and pray for wisdom? No, sometimes how we react to things, yes, it might be a legit reason to be mad about, right? And there might be so many legit reasons to be offended, but how we react is actually a reflection of what is in our hearts. So, and we cannot hide that. So chances for your heart to scream out what has been in it will always present themselves, because we are in this world and because we are living this life now. But those are we, as a child of God, take that as a chance to show the world how much you have guarded your heart above everything else that you have been guarding. There are so many things that we can guard in this life. I guard my kids because I love them to pieces. I guard my marriage. I treasure my marriage. I love it to pieces. There are so many things that I guard, right? But I love my parents, so I want to guard them. There are many things that we guard in this life. I love myself, so I try to guard my health. Maybe I don't do the best job, but I try to my best, right? There are things that we guard so much in our lives. But over and above everything else, what is gonna measure up at the end and what will determine where we spend eternity is what is in our hearts. And at that time, we will not have chance to say, oh no, I allowed these in my heart because this and this was done against me, or this and this was said against me. It's your responsibility and it's your job. It's my responsibility and it's my job to guard my heart and to filter what gets into my heart. And if things do not get into my heart, imagine they will not dictate the way I live. So if we allow things that are artificial to just affect us artificially and leave them alone, and how we leave them alone is by prayer, is by spending time with Jesus, then those things are not going to get into our hearts. So they will not make our hearts too fat to get into the narrow road. So I saw other things about the heart. I'm just gonna read them, but I will not talk much. I have talked a lot. So Proverbs 17:22, we already read that. A cheerful heart is good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up the bones. And our main verse was Proverbs 4:23. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Now, I also want to mention Psalms 51 verse 10. Create in me a pure heart, O God, and renew a steadfast spirit within me. We can talk about the rest tomorrow. I promise you I'll be back tomorrow. Because there's a lot, there's so many verses that I came across that are speaking about the heart. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 verses that speak about the heart that really got into my mind. So this week, as I learn about the heart, let's share. Comment, let me know what you think about the heart and what you would like to add. Thank you.